know that. All right, go right.
So when you're making a schedule, you're gonna go up here to schedules and to schedule quantities. And in this case, I'm scheduling areas. I'm not sure if you guys are gonna be scheduling areas or rooms, but I assume areas.
We started with rooms because technically what they're color coding is the rooms, the classrooms, versus.
Okay, well, it's applicable to both. In this file, I've got it set up as areas, but you could just as easily do this for rooms. So you would navigate to your type of schedule and we're gonna hit OK. So when we set this up, we're going to want to have the name of the room or the name of the area. We're gonna want to have the quantity of these in some cases. It's less so probably if you're doing rooms, but you may want a quantity of them.
No, they need a quantity. They do.
Yeah, you're gonna want an area. And then I'm not sure what other stuff you might need, like comments or things like that.
I would write comments. Just
Okay, you do that, and then I a lot of times will use the department field if it exists, but you can just as easily create any sort of text field that is what you're going to be filtering by. That's basically your categories. So I'll just create a new one. You can basically say categories, or we'll say program category. And that you want to make sure it's in a text parameter, and you're going to hit OK. And that one I usually put up at the top. So once you've done that, then you're going to go in here and you're going to want to set up a filter. Well, I guess first you don't want to start by filtering it because you need to see the whole list, I guess. So we'll leave that all alone and hit OK. So it's just going to create the schedule that's going to list all of the areas that I have in the project right now. And in this case, I guess I already filled this out, so that's why this is all here. But when you do it for the first time, there's going to be nothing in your text category here. So it'll look like this. And what I do then is I come up with whatever my categories are. So if it is learning, then we'll do that. And I'll come down and assign everything to whatever category it's in. So I'm just going to do a couple different ones. Oops, this will be support. It's not category. Okay, so we have all of these here. One thing you're probably going to want to do, because it's a program schedule, is you also want to enable the totals for each of these, because I assume you want to get a total square footage for the different categories. So in order to do that, you would go into sorting and grouping. Now that you've got your categories assigned, and you would sort by your category. There's no need in this case to put a header in front of it because we're actually going to be hiding those later. But the footer is useful because that's going to give you your totals. And I would typically just do totals. I don't know that you need to have counts. So the count total would be like the number of rooms, which if that's relevant, you could do that. But I'm just going to say totals. And then I'm going to come over here to formatting, and you need to make sure that the categories that you want to total are selecting and calculating as totals. So you would need to come in here and say calculate totals. Right now, when it's sorting this by program category, it's itemizing every instance, which is probably what you guys are going to want to do in this case. So you can hit OK. Once you do that, now I've got summaries of how much area there is for each of these categories. In order to apply a color here, Revit's kind of dumb. It doesn't allow you to apply color to any of the body of your schedule. The only place where you can apply color is your title and your headers. So the workaround that you can come up with in order to apply color based on these different categories is we're going to only assign the color to the top, and we're going to filter this out so that we're not showing gathering, learning, and support all in one schedule. We'll make them 3 separate schedules. So how we would do that is we're going to create a filter for our schedule now that we have the categories set up. And so we're going to filter by program category, and we're going to set up one schedule for each of these 3 categories. So first one, we're going to say equals, and then you should be able to find them in your drop down. So you've got gathering. So the first one we're going to make is a gathering schedule, and I'm just going to change the title to gathering. And I'm putting category at the end because I already have one in here. I'm just recreating it. And then I don't really want this to show up every time we have a schedule. So I'm actually going to hide our headers here. That's done in appearance. So you can get rid of showing your headers. You're just going to want to show your title. And then I'm also going to turn off the blank row before data because it'll just make your schedule longer than necessary. So I'll hit OK after I do that. And now I've got just this little baby schedule that's only scheduling the gathering. So what I would do then is I can go in here, and when you click on your title, you can go over to shading, and you can assign whatever color you want. So it can be, you can add the RGB if you guys have something in the model that's already colored a certain color to make sure it's exact, or you can use the picker, whatever it is. So say we set blue for this one. If you're unhappy with the way this is appearing, you can also highlight it and you can change the font. So in this case, if you've got darker colors, you might want to choose white. And then, you know, adjust to whatever your preferred font is. And you can adjust the size as well. So once we set this up, what we can do, if there's a lot of them, because presumably there's probably quite a few, is we can create a view template for this particular schedule. So we can create a template from the current view, and we're going to call this program schedule, because we want them all to have the same width. So you'd want to do all your visual, you know, what you want it to look like first, but you would basically set that all up, create it as program schedule, and hit OK. And then the only thing we want to remove and not include in here is going to be our filter, because each of these is going to filter differently. So we want them each to have a different one. So we're going to hit OK. And you can apply that view template to here. Now, when we make new schedules, you can either, you know, make a new one the same way, or you can also just duplicate it. So you can duplicate the view. And then because we left that one category out of the template, then we can come in here and we can change this from gathering to learning and rename our schedule. And we may have to also remove the formatting. Oh, I have to change it to learning category because I already have a learning schedule in here. One other one that looks like I'm gonna have to leave out of that view template is probably the formatting. Or it's either formatting or appearance that's controlling this color. So let's see what it is. Looks like it's not formatting, it's gotta be appearance. Yeah. So now we have this opportunity here to change our shading color. So you pick whatever color. Oh, that was a bad color to pick. So you do that once you've got them all made, so you can do one more. Duplicate. This one is going to be the support category. And we're going to change our filter to support. And we're going to change your color to whatever your last color you need is. And hit OK. So now you can go onto a sheet and you place all your schedules together. And that's how you would separate them and colorize them. The reason, one of the reasons why you're going to want to make sure that you set up the view template as opposed to just duplicating these is that it may come down the line that you decide, oh, I have another column that I want to add. So the better way to do that is instead of needing to go and change it one by one, now you could just go into your fields and say you needed to add an image, or say you forgot and wanted to add the number in. When you add it in now, it's going to show up across all of them. So that's this category here has now shown up everywhere as opposed to just one. And then the same thing with, you know, you really don't want to see gathering, learning, and support here because you have it covered in the title. So you can also go in here, even though we, you know, have already set these all up, and you can go to your view templates, manage them, and we can go into formatting and make program category a hidden field so that it doesn't show up. And that's kind of how you would do that. The only downside of this is that you would have to, if you wanted a total of all of the categories together, you would need to create a separate schedule that's going to total everything. So basically,
Yeah, so you would, if you did that, you would have to create a schedule that basically is totaling all the areas of rooms on the project, and then that one you would place at the bottom.
Correct.
Basically, to just give you the grand total.
Yep, just to give you the grand total.
Yep.
That's kind of how I would do it. One thing that's important too is when you're setting this up, as much as possible, I would, before you create your view template, set the width of these columns, because they're not, at least they haven't been, I just don't think they are, they don't snap at all to each other. So you're kind of like just trying to get them as close as possible if you're modifying these column widths after the fact. So if possible, I would make sure you try and do as much of your text inputs as possible before you do this formatting at the end. And sometimes when I'm doing a schedule that gets broken up like this, it can be best to do like a master schedule first that's not colored, because that gets you the chance to put all your text in and organize it and make sure the widths of everything looks good, and then use that as the first schedule that you duplicate from and filter.
Cool. That's helpful, Riley. I'm gonna probably just send this out to everybody just so that they can at least get it started. And they'll, you know, I think adding the total schedule would be helpful too.
Yeah. Do you want me to do that right now?
We might as well.
Okay. So if I wanted to create a total schedule, I would come down here and we're gonna duplicate this again, just because I want to get the same thing at the end. I would probably remove the, because oh no, I can do it in appearance. So I would get rid of the title in this case. Because we don't need it. And then I'm gonna go in here and for our filter, we're gonna remove the filters. But we don't need a filter here. That's gonna list out all of our things. So now the trick is that we also don't want any sorting in this one. And we also don't want each item to be listed separately. So I'm actually going to remove the view template at this point to do the total. And I'm going to say none, because what I need to do is come in here to sorting and grouping. I'm not going to have it sort at all because I'm trying to get everything to lump together and I don't want to itemize every instance. And then in formatting, what I'm going to do is make sure that, again, that it's calculating totals for the area. So this should give us one lump sum number that's going to be right here. So it's basically summing up the quantity of rooms or the quantity of areas and then the total square footage of all those areas. And so then I would just call this one totals. And you should be able to sit that right down here.
And then on this one, if you didn't want to show the line work, you know, and that kind of stuff, you can actually fix that on the appearance category.
Yes,
right?
you can go into your appearances and get rid of all those grid lines. So we could say no grid lines. And if we wanted it to like be a different color so that it's separated from the white space of other place, you could probably, you can go in here and add a color to this line, I believe. I haven't done this before, but let's see if that worked. No, it didn't. Let me try that again. It should be the first row, stripe rows. That's, I was just missing that checkbox. No, I think that's one. Yeah, so you could do something like that.
Perfect.
And if you didn't want this, if you just wanted this total, you could, you know, get rid of other columns and just have this box at the bottom if you needed to. So that would be another possibility. Would be you could go in here and hide all of these. And you end up with just this one box that you put at the bottom.
Okay, I think that covers what we need to recreate a little bit better the Excel sort of look of this project. Thanks, Riley.
No problem.
I'm gonna stop recording now. And
Yeah.
so if you need to talk to me, we can talk. Hold on.